As a country surrounded by water, the Philippines is undeniably an aquatic haven. Yet while infrastructure on land has been continually developed, the progress with the country's ecological resources in the sea leave a lot to be desired. Realizing the water's potential, one brave lady rose up, one we can call our very own Moana. Championing the welfare of marine biodiversity, Ana Oposa lives a life of purpose dedicated to saving the Philippine seas. Ana Oposa, welcome to Leading Women.
Thank you, Angel.
And welcome to Dryland.
Yes.
I say welcome to Dryland because as the chief mermaid of, say, Philippine seas, you're always out there. You're always in the water, saving the environment and caring for the environment, educating everyone about how to be more mindful of our environment.
Yes, I hope so. Trying.
How does one become not just any mermaid, but a chief mermaid?
I co-founded Save Philippine Seas when I was 23, and at that time, it was just supposed to be a Facebook page. So there was no grand plan, there was no 10-year vision of what SPS was going to be. It was just founded because there was a big illegal wildlife trade case, and these strangers online, myself included, got together and said, okay, let's do a campaign to monitor this illegal wildlife trade issue. And then Save Philippine Seas ended up becoming something more sustainable because there were people who were inquiring, inviting for opportunities, etc. And after a year, one of our volunteers said, why don't we make business cards so people will take us seriously? And then she said, okay, what title do you want? And I was thinking, well, other companies have the chief executive officer, chief operating officer. So I said, as a joke lang, oh, I'll put chief mermaid. And so we printed it in the business card. And then it just stuck. Like, people would ask for a business card and say, oh, you're the chief mermaid, that's really funny, ganyan. And then I keep saying, okay, I'm gonna stop calling myself the chief mermaid. But it stuck. People remember it. So, okay, sige, papanindigan ko na yung title na to. I did this to myself. Diba? Yeah.
So doing that to yourself means that you also took on a very important and serious role as a chief mermaid. So what does it mean and what role does a mermaid take in our society?
Yeah, so di ba nga, that started out as a joke, but then there's a writer who said that mermaids have no fear of depths and great fear of shallow living. Parang it became like a very good description of what the last 7 years have been. So as Chief Mermaid, my role is to lead Save Philippine Seas in the campaigns and in the projects, work on policies with local government, even the Senate and the Congress. But it's also just really being an ambassador of the sea and talking about why we need to protect it, especially here in the Philippines.
So why do we need to protect it? What is the state of the Philippine seas that you're so passionate about that we need to protect and care for?
The Philippines is the second largest archipelago in the world, right? We're 7,000 plus islands.
Depending on low tide.
Yes, exactly. So it just makes sense to protect the sea and to restore whatever damage that we've done to it. What a lot of people don't realize is that 50 to 80% of the oxygen that we breathe actually comes from the sea. So that means at least every other breath we take comes from that body of water. So if we don't take care of it, essentially we're not taking care of ourselves. It's like the beating heart of the world. And especially in the Philippines, and we are in this incredible position geographically to be called the center of marine biodiversity in the world. So bakit natin hindi aalagaan? And obviously it's a source of our livelihood. So much of our economy is fisheries or aquaculture. It also brings us a lot of joy. Diba, being by the beach, diba, tourism, ang daming benefits na binibigay ng dagat sa atin. So it just makes sense to take care of it.
Marami ring nag-iisip na may iba naman mag-aalaga ng dagat. Bakit ako kailangan ko alagaan yung dagat when there are people like you and your group who will take care of it for us?
Because we're Filipinos and we live in the Philippines. Being around the sea is something that should be part of our DNA. Just the fact that we're here and we live in this beautiful country, it's part of our duty, and if we don't do it, who else will? We're not going to ask other countries to take care of our environment. Tayo yung nandito eh. So we're also the ones benefiting from it, and we're also going to be the ones under threat if we don't take care of it.
Save Philippine Seas evolved from an online platform in 2011 to a full-blown movement. And as its chief mermaid, Anna continues to spearhead numerous initiatives.
What
Yeah.
are the battles that you're fighting for, or that you're very deeply involved in?
Yeah.
Deeply
involved in. Well, right now I have several projects. One is on sharks. I really love sharks.
Oh, what is it
And-
about the sharks that you love the most?
You know, people think that sharks are scary,
Yes.
and like they're always like, "Oh my God, how
they're
can you be
depicted
swimming?"
as scary animals.
Exactly, and this is all Joss's fault. But you know, I swim with sharks, and they're such shy animals, and they're ambassadors of the sea as well. So when you protect sharks, because a lot of them are in the top of the food chain, when you protect sharks, you protect the entire ecosystem. I've done a lot of work on trying to get sharks protected in Cebu, and also on a national level, leading campaigns and trying to raise people's awareness on why sharks need to be protected. And we've worked on establishing the country's first shark and ray sanctuary in Cebu, in Malapascua. And now what we're trying to do is create the management plan for it and really institutionalize it through policies. And we also have a campaign called Waste Watch, because the Philippines has been named as the third largest polluter of the marine life in the world. So China's number 1, Indonesia's number 2, and Philippines is number 3. And compare naman our size to China and Indonesia, diba nakakahiya? We've thrown so much of our trash into the water. So we have a campaign called Waste Watch, and it's really just trying to decrease our single-use plastic consumption at source. So decreasing the use of plastic bags, of single-use plastic straws. And that one is really anchored on empowering people to take action.
Next on Leading Women, Anna brings us back to her roots as she recalls how her father planted in her the seeds of love and concern for the environment. Known for her work in environmental conservation, Anna Oposa travels the globe to ignite change, influencing people to look at a different perspective and helping them realize the value of the world we live in.
You engage, you empower, and you educate.
Yes.
And what you've mentioned is exactly that.
Yeah, I'm also really passionate about educating youth about marine conservation. So I run a program called the Sea and Earth Advocates Camp. It's been going on for 4 years. And to date, we've trained 242 youth, both in the Philippines and around Southeast Asia. And what we do is we put them through a boot camp 1 week, and then we put them through different workshops, teaching them about why conservation is important, but also very actionable. Because I'm not interested in raising awareness, period. I'm interested in raising awareness and turning that into action. So how do we get these young people to act and do something and be proactive in caring for the seas? So if you visit our website, say philippineseas.org, you can actually download toolkits. And there are letters, presentation decks, etc., that you can use to write to different people and different establishments to engage them in this campaign.
And you're right, no, to empower someone, that
Yes.
is the kind of tool that you're giving them. Aside from
Exactly.
your literal toolkit,
Yeah.
is Anna's tool in helping the youth become more proactive.
Exactly. The youth are the leaders of the future.
Yes.
On the one hand, it's true, but I also believe that youth can be leaders of today if we are given the right opportunities and the right support. Because I started Save Philippine Seas when I was 23. I co-founded it then. And at that time, so I graduated with a degree in English, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I guess sometimes inexperience becomes an advantage kasi no one can tell me that it can't be done. Kasi nga, I don't know it eh. Being young and being just kind of, not naman reckless, but more, I guess, courageous to dare to do something. There's so much potential in what young people can do.
Anna takes pride in empowering the youth, as she herself was influenced at a young age. Anna's father, attorney Tony Oposa, opened her eyes to environmental issues.
Have you always had this mindset growing up? Were you surrounded by this kind of thinking?
Yeah, so my dad is an environmental lawyer. He actually pioneered environmental law in the Philippines. It's always been part of our daily conversations. People are always like, "Are you a lawyer?" I go, "No, but I got my law degree from the dinner table." Because it's something that we talk about all the time. And growing up, I didn't think that my dad was a big deal, but apparently he is.
Yes,
because,
he is.
because I didn't see him naman as Attorney Oposa. I just see him as my dad. So if he had a reforestation project in Maragondon, we'll go with him. If he was like fighting illegal fishers in Cebu, we'll be there. But to me, it's just like, that's ordinary. But it wasn't until I got older when people are like, "Oh, are you the daughter of Attorney Oposa?" na I realized, oh my God, dahil pala may idol sa tatay ko. and people love to tell me about how much change my dad has brought. So while my dad is the visionary, my mom is a businesswoman, and she's always been very structured and very disciplined, and kailangan may method, may step 1, step 2. That kind of balance. I always say my dad is like my heart and my mom is my backbone. So it's that combination that really helped me be where I am today.
At the dinner table, what are your conversations like these days?
So when my family gets together, we're very passionate about current events, and we invite everyone's opinion. Having that kind of environment at home where your opinions matter and your opinions are valid, and you have to have an opinion. You can't just show up at the dinner table and just like not talk. I guess it really wires your brain differently, and you always have to just be critical in what's happening around you.
Yeah. And would you consider yourself an activist?
Activism now has gained a negative connotation. Parang when you say you're an activist, there are certain expectations of you that you have to be the ones in a rally, you have to be the ones nagwawelga sa labas ng government agency, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Kasi sometimes people say, I want to be an environmentalist, but I don't want to be an activist. There are problems with labeling kasi sometimes when you label something, there are certain stereotypes or expectations when in fact activism comes in so many different forms and so many different roles. So it can be just choosing more sustainable seafood options or not using a plastic bag when you go shopping. There are different levels and ways that you can be an activist.
Anna is spending most of her life actively protecting nature, as well as promoting minor lifestyle changes that can help the environment, showing that even the smallest change can make the biggest splash.
I always have this. This is one of our sea campers. So he's an alumnus of the program. He started a company called SIP, and it's started out with straws, and then they branched out into utensils. It has chopsticks, spoon, fork, knife, and then steel straws.
Okay, this is made of
bamboo.
Okay.
Made of bamboo.
Easy to clean,
Yeah.
easy to bring, so you always have this in your bag.
Yes.
Not using plastic,
Yeah.
being more conscious
Exactly.
of the things that we use
Yes.
in our day-to-day life.
Absolutely. So I have all these reusable things that, because I've been using them for so long, hindi ko na siya iniisip as something different. Parang it's just so part of me that I always have them with me.
Anna is indeed an ambassador of the sea. Find out what's in store for this land-dwelling mermaid next on Leading Women. Save Philippine Sea's chief mermaid, Anna Oposa, admits that her quest to preserve and save marine life has not been smooth sailing. Co-founding an organization at a young age and being a woman amongst a sea of men brought different challenges.
Something also that's part of you, aside from being the chief mermaid,
Yes.
is a marine conservationist.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's
Yeah.
another role that you have,
Yeah.
which of course coincides with your being a mermaid
Yeah,
and
of
an
course,
activist
of course.
in your
Yes.
definition of what an
Yeah.
activist is.
Yeah. So in being a marine conservationist means, to me at least, it's really trying to find the best ways to protect our sea, keeping in mind that there are people involved in managing our marine life. So it's not just the ecology and the biology and the chemistry of the sea that we're talking about, but also coexisting with humanity.
Coexisting with humanity and taking care of the seas. We have an issue now in the country, the Boracay Clean Up.
Yes. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this situation?
Boracay definitely needs attention in terms of restoration. If you've been there, you know that there's a lot of trash. There are a lot of illegal structures that have been built. But the closure was perhaps a knee-jerk reaction to the fact that it needs help. If I could make recommendations, I would have done it in phases and not just like a complete closure. And I would allow those establishments who are legal, who worked hard on abiding the laws to continue operating. I don't think that all hope is lost. There's still certainly a lot of things that can be done to improve the way Boracay is being operated. But we also have to think about all the people who will be affected by this closure.
Very opinionated, Anna, very critical. Yeah. You won't take no for an answer.
Yes. Yeah.
A marine conservationist in a field which is dominated by men. What was it like? How did you handle all the talk about babae siya eh? Kaya ba niya to?
Yeah. Well, I think it was hard at the beginning because I was so young and then I was female. I was always traveling by myself. I was leading campaigns by myself. And I remember I had to work so much harder to prove myself. And when you're young and you're female, I remember there's this one council meeting and I was presenting about a marine protected area. And I said, are there any questions? And the first thing that the counselor said was, single ka ba? And I was like, okay, my male colleagues never get asked that. They never get asked kailan ka ikakasal, kailan ka magkakaanak. Pero ako, I'm always asked that. And then it's always like, hindi kasi babae ka. Or, yung mga ganong comments na actually, I mean, on the one hand, I think being female has worked to my advantage. But in some occasions, especially if it's like enforcement or like environmental law compliance, people are always like, kaya niya ba yan? Parang, can she really go out and work on these illegal issues?
What do you say to the men who say, single ka ba? Or kailan ka magkakaanak? Or kaya mo ba tong i-handle? Parang ang bata mo. Or,
well, I just try to bring it back to the topic, diba? If someone says, kaya mo ba to? Oo, kayang-kaya natin. So, you bring everyone back to the conversation.
Natatahimik sila.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Tsaka when you bring everyone together, that means lahat tayo. It's not just me.
With the help of her team and a pool of dedicated volunteers, Anna believes she can create a positive impact by changing more minds and influencing more people to care for our marine life.
That's a very beautiful way of presenting it to everybody because it's not exclusive.
Yes.
Everyone can be part of saving the Philippine seas.
Yes, absolutely.
And in our own little way.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that SBS is very passionate about. We have a role to play. Some people will have bigger roles, like crafting a national policy. And some people, with the daily choices that they make, they're already making a big difference.
And in being mindful, you're a self-proclaimed change maker. So what does it mean to be a change maker in this day and age of so many things going on?
Change making for me is really identifying the issues, trying to understand human behavior and why and what are the barriers to that. And then we start brainstorming for campaigns. So is it just as easy as saying no to plastic bags or bringing your own? Change making is in so many different forms.
Mm-hmm. It's a very conscious effort that you should practice on a daily basis.
And habits to develop. I think one of the biggest concerns of the sea also is out of sight, out of mind. If you're living in the middle of the city, hindi mo nakikita na yung ginamit mo na plastic bag, it can actually end up in that body of water. And, like when you're surrounded by water, the problem is when you look at it, whether the marine life is in a bad shape or not, it looks the same, diba? How will you know? You can't. Unless you see marine debris, unless you see plastics around. And that disconnect from the environment is one of our biggest problems. And it's sad because we're a country of 7,107 islands or more, but we feel so removed. We don't feel connected to the sea. So one of the things that Save Philippine Seas is doing is bringing people out snorkeling. It's so basic, it's so simple, and you would think, dapat lahat ng Pilipino nakakita na ng coral, diba? Because you cannot protect what you don't love, and you cannot love what you don't know. And you cannot know what you don't understand. What is a coral? Why is it important? How are the daily choices that we make how do those affect what happens to our sea? So yun yung biggest challenge for us always. Na how do we bring people back? How do we connect people and just light up that fire for loving the sea?
You describe it so beautifully with so much passion and excitement, with so much love for marine life,
Yeah.
for the Philippines.
Yeah. I don't want to be known as the country that ruins their own resources, diba? Parang for me, every single Filipino should love the environment but also care for it.
That's connecting.
Yeah.
You connecting us to the environment. That's you being the medium, you being the mermaid, and educating everybody, which makes you a superlative leading woman.
Thank you.
What does it mean to you to be a leading woman, Anna?
A leading woman for me is someone who lifts others with her. One side of it is having a vision and a purpose bigger than ourselves, but it's also not just about you and your cause, but about bringing people together to work on that vision together.
And that's exactly what you've done. Thank you for educating everyone on how to be more mindful of the environment,
Thank you.
how to take part in a more productive way for each and every individual to contribute to the beauty that we already have here in the country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna.
Anchored by her love for the sea, Ana Oposa lives a selfless life, passionately protecting the Philippines' marine biodiversity, actively serving as steward of Mother Earth, and making it a mission for the sea to be part of everyone's world.